How the first man to import a bulletproof car into Nigeria was murdered. Chief Samuel Ladoke Akintola was the first man to import a bulletproof car into Nigeria in 1964. The car was a Mercedes-Benz worth £8,000. He rubbed shoulders with the likes of Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe, Bola Ige along many others. Akintola, born on July 6, 1910, was at a time a teacher and railway worker. He later served as a Minister of Health, Communications and Aviation before he was assassinated in Ibadan, Oyo State on January 15, 1966, following the first coup in the country. In the early hours of the 15th of January 1966, the military struck, and after picking Deputy Premier Fani Kayode in the same Iyaganku neighborhood, moved to the Premier's lodge. The mutineers wanted to forcefully arrest him, but Akintola retaliated and brought out a pistol to retaliate, but in the course of the battle, he was killed. In addition to serving as one of the founding fathers of modern Nigeria, he was also elevated to the position of Oloi Ara Ona Kakanfo 13 of the Yoruba. Akintola was proficient in English, Yoruba, Nupe and Hausa languages. The enslaved black people of 1960s who did not know that slavery had ended. The Emancipation Proclamation of 1863, which changed the status of over 3.5 million enslaved African Americans in the South from slave to free, did not emancipate some hundreds who were slaves through to the 1960s. This was revealed by historian and genealogist Antoinette Harrell, who unearthed shocking stories of slaves in southern states like Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, and Florida over 100 years after the Emancipation Proclamation. She told Justin Fornell that her 1994 Journey of Historical Truth revealed the stories of many 20th century slaves who came forth in New Orleans when they heard that she was using genealogy to connect the dots of a lost history. She said a woman introduced her to about 20 people who had worked on the Waterford plantation in St. Charles Parish, Louisiana, as slaves until the 1960s. One way or another, they had become indebted to the plantation's owner and were not allowed to leave the property. At the end of the harvest, when they tried to settle up with the owner, they were always told they didn't make it into the black and to try again next year. Every passing year, the workers fell deeper and deeper in debt, she said. Many of them were afraid to share their stories as they believed they will be sent back to the plantation, which isn't even in operation. People are afraid to share their stories because in the South so many of the same white families who owned these plantations are still running local government and big businesses. They still hold the power. So the poor and disenfranchised really don't have anywhere to share these injustices without fearing major repercussions. To most folks, it just isn't worth the risk. So, sadly, most situations of this sort go unreported, she told Justin Fornell, and was published in Art and Culture magazine website Vice. One of the 20th century slaves was May Louise Walls Miller, and she didn't get her freedom until 1963. Her father, Cain Wall, lost his land by signing a contract he couldn't read that enslaved his entire family. They were not permitted to leave the land, and the owners subjected them to beatings and rape. May and her mother were most times raped simultaneously alongside each other by white men when they go to the main house to work. According to Harold's narration, May and her family did not know what was happening outside the land as they had no TV. Her father tried to flee the property, but was caught by other landowners who returned him to the farm where he was brutally beaten in front of his family. When Harel met May, her father was alive and he was 107 years old with a sharp memory. He beat May when she was 14 for attempting to flee the farm, an action whose consequence was beating of the entire family. May, covered in blood, still ran into the woods in the evening and hid in the bushes where a white family took her in and rescued the rest of her family later that night. Harel said the family suffered from PTSD as a result of their experiences. May died in 2014. I told you my story because I have no fear in my heart. What can any living person do to me? There is nothing that can be done to me that hasn't already been done, May told Harel when they visited the property she and her family were held. Antoinette Harel believes there are still African families who are tied to southern farms in the most antebellum sense of speaking. If we don't investigate and bring to light how slavery quietly continued, it could happen again. Thanks for watching. Please share, like, and subscribe. Thanks.